Young men are having their finances and confidence destroyed by excessive consumerism and predatory marketing of fragrances. Now, not everyone who buys an expensive fragrance or an expensive item is necessarily a victim. However, there are thousands of people who testify online to experiencing an irrational compulsion to buy the newest men's cologne or fragrance when they've already got enough cologne to last years in their current collection. So this video is specifically going to address fragrance addiction, but I think the points and principles that I'm going to bring up apply to any type of consumerism that we're starting to see more and more amongst men, and particularly young men these days. So perfumery, or cologne and fragrances in general, to me when I was growing up was always a woman's game. Guys, we wore Axe body spray at the gym, but extremely few men that I knew were diving into designer cologne when I was in grade school. Women seem to start wearing actual perfume much earlier than we did as guys. Nowadays, I feel like kids in high school are wearing designer colognes, designer bags, designer clothes. What the fuck? When I was in high school, one of my best friends had a bottle of Versace Eros, and I could vividly remember being at his house and being like, whoa, Versace, oh my God. Just seeing that brand name was just so crazy to me as just a regular middle-class kid growing up. But I feel like kids these days might tell you that fragrance is middle tier, lower tier even perhaps, Versace, a designer cologne. When I was a kid, I made $8.25 an hour in high school, and that bottle, if I bought it, would have cost me probably my entire paycheck. And so my personal journey with fragrances began about 4 years ago. I had just made a big move forward in my career. I had naturally started thinking that I wanted to get a nice cologne because I was swinging in the big leagues career-wise now. So I went to Macy's and I ended up coming home with YSL for $120. It was a much higher price than I was realistically expecting to spend or that I wanted to spend, but I was feeling myself and I was feeling empowered, by making a purchase. A deliberate act to improve my image felt empowering. And YSL is a great fragrance. I ended up using the entire bottle, and from there I explored more designer colognes and even the cheaper dupes, decants, niche fragrances, alike. And eventually I discovered the entire communities of men sharing their opinions and collections and the endless black hole of content that is created around men's fragrances. And look at me now, adding to the noise. In my entire adult life, I have always been a person who has been thrifty and extremely mindful about the money that I spend. I keep a very strict monthly budget and I track every single dollar that I spend every month. And I would encourage anyone that's watching this video to do this. But before I even experienced the fragrance community and fragrance addiction, never before in my life have I been so compelled to need to spend hundreds of dollars on so many different items that all perform the same function. And in this case, it's just to make us smell good. And not that there's anything wrong with wanting to smell good, but it's to what end? This is a luxury thing, It's not an essential function that would typically be required for my justification of spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on this kind of thing regularly. But suddenly I've got multiple carts on multiple websites and discounters and decant sites and online marketplaces. I'm looking for a deal on a fragrance that was so good that I just couldn't pass it up. It's behavior way beyond my typical nature when it comes to how I spend my money. And now granted, yeah, I collect a few different types of things, but never in my life have I had this many online shopping carts with thousands of dollars with my finger willingly on the trigger, ready to just pull that trigger whenever. I collect vinyl records. I love music, and I purchase maybe 2 to 3 records that are $30 every year. Very reasonable. Buying a $200 fragrance every single month, what are we thinking here? But here's what's most insane about this. I have consciously tried to shuffle money mentally in my monthly expense budget to accommodate a large, irrational spending allocation for fucking fragrances. If I spend $100 or less on groceries and I cancel my Netflix for a month, I'll be able to, make enough money. I'll move enough money around to where I'll get this fragrance and it's going to be so good when I get this. What am I doing? And I genuinely like a fragrance. I like a nice fragrance. I like them. I make content about fragrances on this channel. And I think exploring the different fragrances that exist is fun and exciting. Each fragrance tells its own story. It can be an intimate part of someone's, personal expression if you want it to be. It can be more than just, smelling nice. I purchase and I always will have a bottle of Polo Green. It's the only fragrance that I ever smelled on my father that he wore. So it reminds me of my childhood. It's nostalgic for me. I don't wear it that often, but it's meaningful. And I think the purchase for that reason is justifiable because it means more than just, filling an addiction. But purchasing fragrances, it can go way further than this with buying new fragrances becoming like a clutch that someone almost hangs their identity on. And so the marketing and the content produced around these fragrances will genuinely have you believing that an expensive bottle will have people turning their heads and looking at you like you're like the king of the world or something, and that girls are instantly just gonna smell you and just throw themselves at you because of just how good you smell. I mean, after all, it's an expensive bottle for a reason. It's magic juice that turns you into the most desirable object in the universe. You didn't think it would be cheap, did you? Lucky for me, my own personal, I guess you could say, obsession with fragrances began when I was already in a romantic relationship. I never once had to hang my identity on a fragrance because, my girlfriend loved me and took interest in me before I ever thought about needing to collect fragrances. And, I feel like that's something that I truly could even be more grateful for. Obviously, if I had hygiene problems and I smelled bad, that would be a big turnoff. But whether or not I was wearing cologne or a specific type of cologne, it was never a condition for her interest in me or her love to me. And when you say something like that out loud, you truly realize how insane it is. The cologne doesn't change anything. It's just like a nice little bow on top of your personal presentation and your expression of yourself. Now, if I was a single man, especially if I was in a younger, more desperate place of seeking attention and validation, I would have been absolutely crushed by the influence of this industry. And I would have by this point definitely spent multiple hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on this deep collection, in order to, I guess, consider myself worthy of attention and validation. And I can acknowledge the allure that unique fragrances has to offer, The industry unquestionably relies upon male insecurity, FOMO, shopping addiction, and competition between collectors. I simply cannot fathom the collectors that I see not only on YouTube, but creators on Reddit who don't make content or income based on their purchases or collections. And I'm not saying everyone needs to make content about fragrances if they buy it, but here's what I want you to really take into consideration. When someone has a business that generates revenue from fragrance reviews, they can write off all the fragrances that they purchase as a business expense. These reviewers are not buying them for the genuine love of the fragrances. Companies are sending them to them, or they are writing them off if they're purchasing it with their own money. It's a vital part of their business model. They're probably only actually even wearing 5 to 10% of all the fragrances that they actually own that they're showing on their channel. You can only wear one fragrance at a time. You do not need more bottles of cologne than days in the year. And the fact that we feel like we need to earn a certain prestige of a collection of colognes, that's the exact type of brainwash that allows these luxury brands to exist and charge us so much money for these bottles. And what's crazy is we happily pay it. It's insane. Honestly, think about it. It's insane. And that's not me saying they make bad products. It's just there is an inherent predatory nature to the business model that goes way, way, way beyond just creating a high quality perfumery. So all the men watching this video, listen to me. Smelling good is a confidence booster, but do not get gamed by this system and go broke trying to keep up with the Joneses online that have the newest fucking fragrance. Owning an expensive cologne is not a requirement for being likable or worthy of love or being worthy of attention or being worthy of affection. Additionally, not owning a popular cologne does not make you any less worthy of happiness and success than anyone that does purchase that popular cologne. I have a fragrance that I purchased for $24. It's a dupe of another very popular fragrance. It smells great. It lasts long. It's fresh, versatile. It's unoffensive. It's high quality. The 100 milliliter bottle cost me $24. Very reasonable price point. Very high quality product. The ratio of quality to cost does not get much higher than this. The more you spend beyond this price point is realistically just a purchase for a name brand. Do you know how bad it pisses me off that I like a $24 cologne more than I like these other designers that cost 5 times as much money and give me half the amount of liquid? I think I've been able to come up with a good rule of thumb for when I make my fragrance purchases. The price point needs to be related to how often you wear the fragrance. So do not buy a $200 fragrance to wear for special occasions, once every now and again, because you'll be $200 in the hole with a fragrance that's probably inappropriate to wear in 90% of real life situations, for a special occasion. It's a lie that we tell ourselves. How many special occasions do we have a year? 2, 3, maybe? Is it worth it to spend hundreds or even thousands on something that's only going to be used 1 or 2 times per year? And then to balance it out, you're going to go cheap on your daily driver? Or even worse, spend an additional $200 on a high quality daily driver? Or no, maybe I'll also get the dupe, and then I'll wear the dupe most of the time, and I'll wear the good stuff when I'm supposed to, when it's worthy. What the fuck is happening? Why is there so much psychological red tape that we're putting on ourselves? Why are there so many rules? Because this industry wants you to buy more, and you want a reason to buy more. Big purchases are thrilling. I feel like consumerism at large is so just completely out of control, and as a planet, not even as a country, as a planet, we have produced so much shit in the last few years, and it exponentially rises every year how much stuff we produce and buy. I remember when I was young, if you wanted a really nice pair of shoes, you go and you have to spend the amount required to get a nice pair of shoes. You have to spend high to get high quality. And now I can go to the Nike discount outlet and get high quality shoes for $50, $60 a pair. I mean, that's awesome. Shoes are cheaper now, so I can buy more pairs. Well, how many pairs of shoes do I need? I only have 2 feet. I can only wear 1 pair at a time. So the psychology of justifying a purchase is fucked when you think about it. At what point do we have enough stuff? With things like these cheap discounter shoes and the less expensive dupe fragrances, we think just because the price point is better, it's easier to spend the money, but you're still spending more money on something you already have a million versions of. So let's think about a suit, for example. How often do you look at a suit that someone is wearing and inherently know if it's a cheap suit or a high-end suit? Very, very rarely. Usually only when it's on one extreme end of the spectrum, or other if it's super nice or it's super cheap. Otherwise, you don't think about this. If you wear a suit every single day, then maybe this applies to you less, but the difference between a $500 suit and a $2,000 suit, it's really nothing more than an illusion for you, the purchaser, to feel better about yourself because you spent more money on something. When I go on Reddit threads and I see people rating each other's collections of hundreds of expensive high-end fragrances, I think that is insane. People are racing to have bigger and bigger collections and compare them to one another on the internet. You probably only need 3 fragrances total. One for a work daily wear situation, and maybe one for dates and evenings, and then maybe you have your special occasion fragrance. 3 is plenty. That's got you covered for 100% of situations. So I'm not saying don't buy fragrances, wear them, or enjoy them, because I do that myself. They are awesome. They are fun. They're cool. But, don't end up in the belly of the beast, because if you find yourself at a point where you have more fragrances than reasons to wear a fragrance, costing you thousands of dollars and making a virtually insignificant effect on your life, it's gonna make you resent fragrances. But it doesn't have to be so black and white, you know what I mean? A fragrance is neither an inherently good or a bad thing. It's an object that you can choose to buy, or you can choose not to buy it. You have control over how you feel about them and the purchase decisions that you make regarding them. So we need to empower ourselves to have strength over the forces of marketing and really think about the use cases for everything that we buy. And I get there's some hypocrisy. I buy and enjoy fragrances as well, and here I am on here ranting about why it's bad. No, I really just want to kind of make people aware of these things. I want you to be aware of the forces of marketing and jealousy and FOMO and all these things that is created to make you want to spend more of your money on something that you don't need. If you're finding everything that I'm talking about so far to be valuable and you want more advice on empowering yourself as a young man in this world, please consider subscribing to this channel, as my goal is to empower and guide young men on making good decisions. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Am I going too far? Am I making too big of a deal of this? Am I thinking too hard about this? I genuinely want to know. I'd also encourage you to take a look at other videos that I've made on this channel that have similar discussion type content and see if it's useful for you. If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one, guys. Peace.